The Forbidden Sector was a vast stretch of space, a dark region on the galactic map marked with bold red lines. Few ships ever ventured there, and even fewer returned. It was a place where ancient civilizations had once thrived, only to be consumed by the dangers that lurked in its depths. The Council of Races had declared it off-limits centuries ago for good reason. It was the graveyard of empires. So when a distress signal from a human ship was picked up near the core of the Forbidden Sector, no one believed it. The message was too strange, too impossible to be true. "Is it a prank?" Captain Lin of the Zoylan fleet asked, watching the signal flash across his ship's console. No one, not even the most reckless explorer, would go there. The officer at his side, an experienced Groll named Dren, grunted in agreement. "It's a human ship. They're not exactly known for their caution." Lin's brow furrowed. The Council had given orders not to engage with anything from the Forbidden Sector. If the distress signal was real, it could mean the humans had found something more dangerous than they realized, or worse, something that had already found them. The Zoylan fleet wasn't alone in its curiosity. The Shakura, a race known for their technology and strict neutrality, had also intercepted the signal. Soon, a small armada of ships surrounded the coordinates where the human distress call had originated. The humans, however, hadn't expected help. They didn't think anyone could, or would, respond to their signal. Captain Jack Wells stared at the flickering control panel of his ship, the Vanguard. His crew was dead. The ship was crippled, drifting among ancient ruins in the heart of the Forbidden Sector. No one knew how they had ended up there. They had been chasing a comet, a cosmic anomaly that had been identified by human scientists as possibly containing advanced technology. It had promised the kind of discovery that would cement humanity's place among the stars. Instead, it had led them straight into the heart of a dead civilization, and, unknowingly, into the grip of something much darker. The Vanguard had been pulled into a gravitational anomaly, and after hours of trying to regain control, the ship had crashed into what looked like the ruins of an ancient station. Strange energy pulses surrounded the area, and before they could even send a full report, everything had gone silent. Now Jack sat alone in the captain's chair, surrounded by the cold, dim glow of the control room. His mind raced with one thought. How had they survived this long? The station was ancient, its technology too advanced for anyone to understand. The human ship had barely managed to hold together, even after their arrival. The whole situation felt wrong. The humans, ever the survivors, had done what they could. They had repaired the ship's external communications array to send out the distress signal, hoping someone would hear. But Jack knew deep down that it was a long shot. No one would come. They would all perish here in the Forbidden Sector, forgotten and lost. But somehow, someone had answered. The fleet was on its way. When the ships of the Zoylan and Shakura fleets arrived in the vicinity of the Vanguard, they couldn't believe what they saw. The human ship, though damaged, was still functional, surrounded by strange debris. The debris wasn't like anything any of the species in the galaxy had ever encountered. It was like the remnants of some ancient weapon, dark and pulsating with energy. "I don't like this," Captain Lin muttered as his ship's sensors scanned the area. "What are we dealing with here?" Dren's voice rumbled through the communication link. "The Vanguard isn't a normal human vessel. It's been through something none of us understand." The Shakura vessel, which had arrived shortly after, confirmed what they already suspected. The human ship had not just crashed. It had been pulled into the Forbidden Zone by some kind of force. The energy patterns were unlike anything they had ever encountered, not even in the deepest parts of the galaxy. Then, the transmission came through. "Can you hear us?" It was Jack's voice, weak but clear. "We've been stranded here trying to survive, but we don't know how long we can last. We need your help." It was the first time anyone had heard a human sound that defeated, but in Jack's voice there was something else, something that even the Council had failed to recognize in humanity. It was resolve, a refusal to give up. "Help is on the way," Captain Lin said into the communication link, trying to reassure the humans. But he didn't. No how, the forbidden sector was lethal. No one left alive, unless they were a part of something ancient and incomprehensible. They decided to send a small rescue party down to the Vanguard. The shuttle from the Zoylan fleet touched down on the broken hull of the human ship. The Zoylan soldiers, equipped with full protective suits and energy weapons, entered cautiously. Their goal was simple: find the survivors and bring them to safety. They were greeted not by the expected broken survivors, but by a human, standing tall in front of the entrance to the control room. He was alone. "Jack Wells," he said, his voice steady despite the situation. "I assume you're here to help us?" Dren, one of the Zoylan soldiers, eyed him suspiciously. "You should be dead, human. No one survives the forbidden sector." Jack smiled, despite the exhaustion that had settled in his eyes. "You're wrong. We humans survive. We always survive." The words struck Dren and the rest of the team like a shockwave. In the galaxy, they were surrounded by species that had evolved to endure the harshest conditions. Yet, in front of them stood a human, fragile, seemingly defenseless, and yet still alive after everything. "Impossible," Dren muttered under his breath. Jack motioned to the ship's control panel. "We've learned to adapt. The ship may be damaged, but we can still make it out of here. The question is, do you want to help us escape, or are you too afraid to face what lies ahead?" No one knew how the human ship had ended up in the forbidden sector. No one knew how a species so seemingly weak could survive such odds. But as the Zoylan soldiers looked into Jack's determined eyes, they realized something. The humans weren't just survivors. They were fighters. And in the heart of the forbidden sector, they had proven that the galaxy had underestimated them all along.